You know, I believe that the purpose of a meeting is to give people an experience they can't get at work, that they can't get at home, and to take them to an emotional and an intellectual place that they can't take themselves. So one of the things that intrigues me about the meeting world is when someone just spends their entire time with a PowerPoint putting slides up on a screen, most of which people can't pass the fifth row see. And my attitude is, well, why don't you just email them that information, and at 2 o'clock in the morning in their pajamas, they can get the information you're trying to dispel. And so the counter to that is you bring people together, belly to belly, heart to heart, knee to knee talk, with the understanding that reason leads to conclusions, but it is emotion that leads to action, that there's value in bringing people together. And understanding just in this new political climate with President Obama in the White House, to contrast his ability to communicate with President Bush. And I was a President Bush fan, but he was a lousy speaker. And to see someone with Obama's background emerge and take over the free world as our new president of the United States, primarily because of his ability to generate emotional response and be such a powerful presenter of information in an emotional way. So in this down climate, the first inclination is to discount the power of meetings, to discount the importance of gathering together. And I say, no. In this recession, we can't afford to waste a good recession. In this recession, in tough times, is when we need to gather together more importantly than ever before. Beginning of World War II, Winston Churchill stuck in an underground bunker while the Nazis are bombing his beloved England. And his only way to convey never say never to his British citizens is over a radio when he said one of his most famous lines. It is not enough to say I will do my best. We must succeed at doing that which is necessary. So in galvanizing a team, yeah, we have to go through the steps of team building, but we have to do it in an emotional, engaging, funny, tear-jerking way so that we remember the moment and then take that emotion that we feel and that deeper connection we have one with another and leave the meeting more committed to doing what is necessary to succeed no matter what the emotional weather is outside of the meeting. You know, it's interesting how I believe that the market is cyclical, and that's what our forecasters and our economists are telling us. And so are messages. But the topics have never been cyclical. I've been a professional speaker now for 25 years. And we still have to gather together in meetings to discuss and convince ourselves about the finely tuned topics of leadership under pressure. Reminding each other that pressure is not something that's naturally there. It's created when you question your own ability. When you know what you can do, there's no question, which means you have to perfectly practice. You have to have product knowledge. You have to understand everything. But you must also understand that leadership is also about sales. In a tough time, it's all hands on deck. That sales is everybody's business. We have to resell ourselves on a daily basis to our neighbors. We have to resell ourselves to our spouses and our significant others. We have to resell ourselves in the marketplace, which means that customer service is no longer a department. It's a way of life. It's a way of thinking. So in this tough time, this economic crisis, this global recession, we have to first and foremost acknowledge that there's a recession, but then understand that the three topics that I've been an expert in all these years have never changed, but more importantly, they've amalgamated into one topic. You can no longer separate them in a mutually exclusive environment. You can't just have someone talk about sales. You can't just have somebody come in and talk about customer service and creating customer delight. You can no longer just have a motivational speaker addressing change. You can no longer just have someone come in and talk about leadership. Somebody has to come in and talk about how they are integrated and how they rely on one another, and that the individuals who are going to make it and the organizations who are going to make it have all four of those topics: change, motivation, leadership, sales, and customer service, all integrated in the same meeting, perhaps in the same message, and especially in the same messenger. So I take a lot of pride in being able to convey those messages in a holistic wellness approach. And case in point, the way I address my audience is, how many of you have heard lately, you got to think outside the lines, you got to think outside the box? And my take on that response to the audience is, what if the answers are still in the box? Most people who come to meetings come in search of the new answers, when in reality, don't you think we ought to come in search of the right answers? And the right answers have always been right, or we can't call them right. And the response I'm getting from my meetings, and especially my meeting planners and their attendees, is, oh, thank God we don't have another assignment. Thank God we don't have to leave this meeting and do something more. And I read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I live in Utah. I've known Covey for 1,000 years. I devoured that book. I have 4 of the 7 habits down, and now I find out there's another one. Covey writes the book, The 8th Habit. I wanted to email him and say, calm down. We don't need another assignment. So the feedback I'm getting from my message is, thank God we don't have to go do something new, that all the information is necessary already inside of me to succeed. What it takes for me to succeed is already inside of our organization. We just need to trigger more passion, creativity, and imagination among us with the belief that when the water in the lake goes up, all the boats rise together. We can leave here and do what is necessary to succeed. The energy that my audience leaves with is based on these quotes, more than cliche, quotes that they can hang their hat on. Like, crisis does not make or break the man or woman, it just reveals the true character within. And if you can remind the group, the collective group, that adversity introduces us to ourselves, that nobody can really prove how good we are until we're tested, until we're stretched. If they can understand that mindset, then suddenly you can throw out a quote that matters, that actually they can relate to in a practical application way. For example, most people hate their jobs. They only look forward to Friday instead of Monday. Oh, you pause and the audience goes, that's me. They think they're paid by the hour when in reality we're paid for the value we bring to that hour. So in a down economy, job security comes from the ability for you to be willing to come early and stay late regardless of the contractual agreement. My dad was battling cancer for 6.5 years, and one of the greatest motivational speeches I ever heard was the chief oncologist at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, when Dr. Scott says, Mr. Clark, is there a difference between dying of cancer and living with cancer? What's it going to be? So somehow words really do matter, especially if they're conveyed in an emotional, realistic way. And so the energy that we create within a meeting, the context of a meeting, actually is a return on investment. They leave remembering these quotes, remembering these realities, and saying, my gosh, if I'm going to be around here tomorrow, if I'm not on the chopping block, if I want some job security, I better do something about what I can bring to the table. And the people who sustain their jobs are those who bring more value, not just in good times, but especially in tough times. And then once the tough time ends, they have positioned themselves to stand out in this mediocre society. We're all guilty. We've helped create this minimum requirement society. As I leave your studio here at Leading Authority, the very best speakers bureau in the world, guaranteed, because of the way you care about people and you listen and you investigate the needs of the clients and then find people like me to match that need. I understand that I'm just one of 1,000 fish in your sea, but I take pride in being one of the fish, and I want you to know that. But as you answer those questions and you listen to the client's needs, the interesting thing to me is that I must also not just practice what I preach, I must preach only what I practice, which means I must bring more value as an individual than just a motivational speaker, than just a leadership trainer, than just an economist who can forecast what's supposed to happen that might not. Somehow I have to bring more to the table, and by seeing that I can do this and do that, and I'm willing to go out on a limb and create this future for myself, hopefully that will inspire them to leave and do the same. You know, every professional speaker will say, I customize my speech, and they throw out the name of the company and think, yeah, that's a done deal. I take great pride in 2 things. Number 1, I've committed to doing something every single day to make myself better, to make myself more qualified, to make myself more inspirational to be around. That the speech does not make the speaker credible. What he or she has done prior to the speech is what gives us credibility, makes us an expert. And hopefully when I get through speaking and flapping my jaws for 60 minutes, people know that I have some substance, that I've been there and done that. And even though I didn't have time to go there, they know that I've had these magnificent experiences interviewing the most famous, powerful, successful people on our planet, flying in fighter jets. I played football for 13 years. I was paralyzed 1 year. 16 doctors told me I'd never get any better. And as I started to get better, I was asked to speak. I don't have to tell that whole story. I want them to know that I speak as one having authority, that I bring that to the table. And so the first phase of how I prepare and tailor and customize my speeches is based on my commitment to being fresh, to having a new experience every week, to interviewing someone, to making sure that I can connect the dots to get to Michael Phelps, who just was this superstar in the Olympics, and have an engaging conversation with him so that now I am an expert eyewitness on what happened after the Olympics, how I can convey the messages of leadership, of commitment to excellence, just because I have now engaged with that person. So I'm always trying to make myself exciting to be around. What has Clark done this week?